Welcome to Make Your Money Matter with Brad Barrett, the show that aims to change the way you think about wealth management. Brad is a financial advisor, established radio host, and author of Retire Right. He is a managing director and partner at One Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm managing over $4 billion for clients across the nation. Brad and his team are dedicated to helping clients protect and preserve their assets so they can reach their investment and retirement goals. And now, your host of Make Your Money Matter, Brad Barrett.
Welcome to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. I'm also a managing director and partner here at One Capital Management. Hey, today on the show, I want to address a question that I think I get asked probably the most often, and this is asked in different ways, but I'm going to prep it this way for our show this week. Am I going to be okay in retirement? Now, I don't care what ages or stages of your life you're in right now, in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, doesn't matter. This question is really important. We're going to address it with five key areas to focus on that I've seen in nearly 2 decades in the financial services industry that I've learned and gleaned from experience really around these areas. And if you focus on these 5, you're going to be able to answer that question, look yourself in the mirror and say, I got this. Hey, before we get started though, make sure to download and subscribe to our podcast. You can download our podcast on Spotify, SoundCloud, the Apple iTunes app on your phone, or Google Podcasts. Leave us a comment, leave us a review. It helps us share the weekly podcast. And with that, let's get started. So friends, all it takes to protecting what you save, is a couple things. And again, I'm going to focus on 5 today. Things around your income, your healthcare options, your taxes, and your estate or legacy planning. These are all topics I'm going to bring up today because I think it's important as we all realize that the question we have around am I going to be okay in retirement really is a dovetail off the question of am I going to be okay with my money? Am I always going to have enough? And before I get started, I do want to share that for many of my weekly listeners, you noticed that last week I was unable to record. My lovely, wonderful, adoring, loving kids decided to bring home a fun flu and give it to Dad. So even if I was to record, I'd probably sound like Mr. Ed. So I figured I would go ahead and skip and come afresh to you this week. So I apologize for missing last week. But I was writing as I was laying in bed and thinking on some topics I wanted to go through on the podcast. And, in general, planning for retirement, it's actually pretty simple. Now, I know I'm sharing this because I'm a retirement plan advisor, an investment manager. This is what I eat, live, and breathe daily. But it really is. Just answer the question in the headline I mentioned here at the top of the show, okay, of am I going to be okay in retirement? Just answer it with a yes. And here's what I want to say. The problem that we focus on, most people, they can't really attach to that answer. They can't attach to yes and feel truly sound about it. There's always that little question mark at the end. Wouldn't you agree? And it should really be called, I would say, the uncertain mark. Don't you think? Answering this question is actually very difficult. It requires asking about new obstacles you didn't face maybe while working. Obstacles and questions very simply like, did I save enough money? Will I run out of money? When do I start my pension or Social Security? Should I pay off my mortgage? How do I take required minimum distributions, RMDs? Should I take my pension now or wait? There's so many questions to go through here. This list can go on and on. So how do you know for certain that you'll be okay in retirement? Let's get into it, okay? Here's what I want to share. I want to help today. And this is coming both from research while I was sick last week and I was just reading and taking in all the things. And this is also going to come from experience. So these 5 I'm going to bring up are really, look, there's plenty we can go through. These 5 I think are key. If you answer these 5 for yourself or with your advisor, you're going to be okay. Number 1 is this: protect what you save. This is what I'm going to title it, all right? So being retired, right, if you think about it, means what? It means you're technically not saving anymore. I always share with someone who goes into retirement that there's really 2 things happening, not just one event. There's 2. You are stopping contributing if you are contributing to your retirement plan, right? And then ultimately, the very next phase of that is you're going to be distributing. So it's not just you're stopping contributions or stopping savings, you're now ultimately going to be wanting to spend. So there's really a couple things happening, not just one big event of you retiring. Okay. And when you spend and lose money, bad things happen, right? So for example, let's say if you saved $1 million and you need $50,000 a year income, If you just do the quick math on that, that's 5%. Now, if you lose 50%, this is a dramatic hypothetical all of a sudden, right? You now have $500,000, but still need the $50,000 a year to live, do you not? So that's no longer 5%. That's now 10%. And frankly, without going into too much detail, as an advisor, that's just too much, and you'll most likely run out of money. So safety with reasonable returns wins every time. I want to say that again. Safety with reasonable returns wins every time. The Bible even talks about this. You know, the Bible talks about money more than love itself. I mean, think about that concept for a second. And there's plenty of things I can go through in this, but it even has in Proverbs that a quick get-rich-quick scheme will run out. But tried and true, over time, compounding wealth will last forever. Safety with reasonable returns wins every time. Don't go be, trying to find these stocks. And I'm not saying they're not good, but just reality check yourself and say, look, again, as I always say, it's not always what you own, but how you own it. Make sure it's in context with your overall plan. Back to safety and with reasonable returns, it will win out. Okay, number 2, it really dovetails off number 1 here, is have an income plan. Let me be very clear. Retirement's about 2 things: liquidity and income. I share a lot with my guys who retire, right? If you think about it, your retirement, as we all call it, really in our world is called a liquidity event. All of a sudden, the savings, the investings, the sacrifice, the discipline you've put in now becomes accessible to you. So now you need that to not only be liquid, okay? And again, protect what you saved, back to number 1, but number 2 is now have an income plan. You need to know, right, that you'll never run out of money. That's the idea of probabilities. That's the idea of sustainability. And frankly, this is the whole concept of a well-designed financial plan. Now, to do that, you must have it detailed. I know many would look at that and say it's stressful to find an advisor. It takes time to build trust. I understand that. One of the reasons why I do this show every week is to be in front of you guys to just let you know as a sound voice, we are out there. Doesn't have to be me or One Capital Management, but we are out there. So find a fiduciary, credentialed, and experienced advisor to help you detail this. You want an all-inclusive, comprehensive income plan. It needs to provide certainty, okay, that you will never run out of money no matter how long you live. There's scenarios you can run. Now, let me just pause for a second and just meditate on this for a second, okay? Just think about this. If I were to say to you, would you want to know with certainty that the money you're saving right now, and ultimately the plan you have to walk off the job and go into retirement, would you want to know that you're going to be secure? Would you want to know that your family is going to be okay? I mean, I think that question, if you really ask yourself honestly, is a very important one that I think will actually bring peace of mind. So I think this question of looking at it from a workload standpoint actually has a lot to do more with being kind to your tomorrow self, right? Do the work today to make sure your tomorrow self is going to be okay. Answer that and go through a plan. Detail it out.
Stay connected. Get frequent updates on the show. Follow Brad Barrett and Make Your Money Matter on most social media platforms. And catch full episodes of Make Your Money Matter streaming now on our YouTube channel. To schedule your no-obligation appointment, go to onecapital.com or call 805-410-5454.
All right, these next 3, I'm going to go into a little more specifics on some items. Obviously, with number 1, we want to protect what you save, kind of more of a macro theme, if you will. Number 2 is have an income plan. Again, these are a little more generalist. I want to lead with those 2 because that's kind of your first base heading to second base situation. When you round second, you're in scoring position, you're heading to third, you're looking to go home, right? This is the next 3. And the third one I want to bring up here is work out your healthcare options. Now, obviously, for those of us on the job, we have a lot of things we can look at when it comes to healthcare. So I'm going to be more broad stroke here as I bring this up. But you want to get your Medicare, you want to get your health benefits right. You get it wrong, and you'll obviously forever pay too much, and you may not get the level of care you need. And it's interesting stat, now this is a kind of a overall United States citizen stat, that Americans who turned 65 in 2021, it's a couple years ago, right, have an 83% chance of needing some type of long-term care before they pass away. So this is an interesting subject matter. I get brought up a lot of long-term care versus Medicare and just different things. They're kind of 2 separate things here, but not covering a certain risk is one of the fastest ways I think that can tank your retirement goals. Now, long-term care in and of itself is its own conversation to have with your advisor. I have my opinions on them. They work in some scenarios, they don't work in others, right? And it has a lot to do with the liquidity you have. Again, back to your income plan and back to your overall securing your nest egg, okay? But if you understand that the majority of our life, we spend our youth sacrificing our health for our wealth, and then all of a sudden we retire and we reverse it. We now all of a sudden are sacrificing our wealth for our health. So whatever stage you are, right, in life, whatever season you are, make sure you understand that this is going to come down the pike at some point for you. So I would suggest talking about it earlier than not. And to be honest, this is a secret, a little wealth building hack, if you will, to kind of start early on the taking care of yourself, both mentally, physically, spiritually, the whole thing. And the earlier you start on that, and then use the programs you have in place to help enhance those areas ultimately when you get into retirement. All right, so number 4, we're going to switch gears and go on to taxes. Ultimately, you want to reduce the taxes you owe, right? I mean, that's just a general tax planning theory. So obviously, because paying too much in taxes in retirement is an enemy number 1, right? I mean, who owns your 401k or your IRA accounts ultimately, right? Did you say you do? Not quite. Remember this, right? Meet your partners. Welcome in the IRS and your state government, right? If you pay state income taxes where you live. Additionally, if you think about it, if taxes go up, right, they own more and you own less. That's kind of the way it works. So, you want to speak about your tax deferred money, your deferred compensation plans, your 401ks, your IRAs, right? And think about this for a second. Do you think you'll be in a lower tax bracket come retirement? I think for many, the answer is actually yes. I think a lot of people out there are kind of going like, oh, it's going to go up. And I think we think when taxes go up, we kind of think about it like interest rates, right? We think all of a sudden like our interest rates doubled or something like that. I mean, we always, depending on if it's a Democratic, executive branch or Republican executive branch. I mean, there's different rules that come into play. There's different tactics they're trying to use to increase or decrease taxes. But at the end of the day, if they increase them, history has shown us they're not dramatic increases. Now, I'm not saying, I'm not poo-pooing the fact that there's increases, but I think it's really important to make sure as you talk about strategies like Roth or traditional, I really believe that it has a lot to do with eye of the beholder, meaning your specific situation is yours. And finding a good advisor to meet you where you are, walk through your retirement life. Are you going to be making more in retirement? Are you going to be making less in retirement with pension or Social Security? Are you going to continue working? Do you have a spouse working? I mean, these are all questions you want to bring up on item number 4 to answer the question. Again, the overall theme for today is, am I going to be okay in retirement? This number 4 is you want to make sure you have a tax efficient retirement plan. You want to reduce it overall, right? Because you want to ultimately, pay less taxes in retirement and have more money, obviously, to spend and leave more money to your kids, mostly tax-free, which leads me into number 5. And number 5 is quite simple. Put together an estate plan, a succession plan. Everybody needs an estate plan. I want to be very clear about this, okay? Whether or not you have a lot of assets or a little bit, it doesn't matter. An estate plan controls the things that happen if you become disabled or die. So if your disability, for example, is long-term and you don't have an estate plan, or you have an improperly designed estate plan, which I see often, the person you name to take care of your money can use your money only for you. It's important. These are rules and rights you have inside there. So if it's your spouse, for example, they can't use your money for themselves or your kids or anything else. If they do, they can be actually removed and replaced from an attorney. So your family would pay big in this scenario, unnecessary legal fees and just time and just emotions, not needed. Look, if you don't have an estate plan or it's improperly designed, your money can end up in the wrong people's hands. Like, let me give you an example. If your kid, for example, gets divorced, sadly, half of the money you left for them and your grandkids will most likely go to their ex-spouse. I've had this conversation a lot with clients. I think it's important to discuss. Or let's say your child, unfortunately, is at fault in a serious car accident and maybe is sued. All your money that you might have left for them could go to the victim's family. So these are obviously very terrible situations. I'm not trying to sell fear here. I'm just trying to bring up scenarios I've seen in 19 years in the financial services industries, right? And many others, right, that can be avoided, again, with a properly designed and implemented estate plan. So those 5 points, if you just look, again, like I said in the outset here, there's a lot we can focus to answer this question, but those 5 I think are really important, okay? Put together an estate plan, have an income plan, reduce your taxes, protect what you've saved. These are all areas to focus on when you really kind of start out the journey of answering this question of, am I going to be okay in retirement? And again, like I shared as well, no matter where you are in your season of life, it's important to discuss these now. I don't care if you're in your 20s, maybe you just got on the job or just got on a career path or whatever it might be. Now's the time. If you're 50 years old looking at retirement in the next 5 or 10 years or 15 years, whatever it might be, now's the time. If you're in your 40s, now's the time. You can see very simply how you can make a case that these 5 are important to focus on no matter what season of life you're in. I want to thank you for listening to the Make Your Money Matter show. As always, make sure to discuss anything we talked about today with a financial professional about your specific situation. And again, if you'd like our help, you can reach us at 805-410-5454. And until next week, always remember, make your money matter.
The information in this show is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration a listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision.